All right, welcome to the Team Nourished team call. It is Thursday, May the 14th. So I am super excited that you guys are all here for our call and are ready to lean into your business, learn a little more, just to grow. And I think that this call specifically, even if obviously this is going to be geared toward people who are building a business, but at the same time, it's also geared toward people that want to grow in their life. And so all of the principles that we're going to talk about tonight are also growth principles for your life. And so I think that this is one of the keys that truly unlocks a lot of personal growth, a lot of business growth, just all of the things. So let's see here. Let me get this started. And I will screen share because we'll take care of admin-y stuff first. So I can play from the start. There we go. Megan, you're at the top of my list. Can you see the slide? Awesome. Thank you. All right. So again, welcome to the Team Nourished team call. I'm so thrilled that each of you is on tonight. Makes my heart happy. Okay. New coach must knows. Our core mission is to help people achieve their goals and enjoy a healthy, fulfilling life. So make sure that you emphasize the word their goals, because we are here to help them achieve their goals, not your goals, not their husband's goals, not their great Aunt Sally's, but their goals. Go ahead and start. If you're brand new to the team, I know there might be some new coaches on here. Go ahead and start your Beachbody challenge. Get results like a boss, like it's your job, because guess what? It is. Your income will directly flow out of you being plugged into your challenge. So that means that even if today is day one of your challenge and you have zero results to speak of yet, doesn't matter. Your job is to show up, and you will have a result even after one day. You will feel differently after one day. If you started 10 rounds with me, by golly, you will hurt after one day. That is part of getting results like a boss. So practice the vital behaviors in Beachbody. We have 4 vital behaviors. They are: be proof the products work every day. That goes back to number 1. I feel like all of them point back to number 1, but that one goes back to number 1. Drink your Shakeology, drink your Energize, your Recover, use the products. You can't tell people how they should be doing this if you're not doing this. So do your challenge, get results like a boss. Vital number 2, connect, invite, follow up. I feel like we're going to always spend the bulk of our team calls really digging in here, because this is the part that the majority of people really struggle with. But connection, inviting, and follow up will all stem from what we talk about tonight as well. Vital number 3, help people get results and recognize them. So once you start putting yourself out there, you become vulnerable, and you invite someone into our community and they start getting results too. You're going to recognize them, you're going to help them get results, you're going to coach them. And then vital component number 4, personal development. That is a huge part of what we're talking about tonight. This whole call stems out of my own personal development journey with vulnerability. So I definitely want to emphasize that. I think that personal development is one of the most underrated parts of coaching, because again, kind of like your physical results, your internal results are what really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you have a 6-pack of abs or not does not determine whether or not you will be successful in this business. You will be successful in this business if you grow, and that's a part of growth, of personal development. Hit SC6. Oh, I think there's people waiting to get in. Okay, sorry. It's always the hard thing for me with this waiting room thing. I need to learn how to turn it off. Okay. Anyways, hit SC6. So this is kind of, again, new coach must knows. Hit SC6. That's helping 3 people enroll as challengers and advance to Emerald. You're enrolling your challengers as coaches anyway. We really emphasize enrolling as a coach, because and in a way it is selfish, but not probably in the way that you think. A lot of people are like, well, that's good for you, it builds your business. You know what else it does? It reduces a lot of my back end stress when you have to text me and you're like, my client that I enrolled last month, she really loves Shakeology and now she wants to get a discount. Now I have to figure out how to upgrade her and get her refund for her coaching. Like, it just simplifies everything. It costs the same. There's no, I don't know what the word I'm trying, like, there's no reason you should not do that to everyone. If you need verbiage around it, go into our team page, go to the announcement, scroll down to the conversation post right there, and I literally tell you exactly what to say. So advance to Emerald, earn your ticket to Summit, all of those things are wrapped up, and we'll kind of touch on each one of those as we go along. And 4, sign up, log into our Coach Good Vibe Tribe Training Center. If you're going to grow a business here, part of growing a business is learning how to run a business. So do the self-paced training program. I am putting together a team training group, but at this time it's still only self-paced. So go ahead and sign into that. The team training website is at the bottom here, goodvibetribecoaches.com. And just know you do not have to create a login. Those are not being approved anymore. So please use the master login, which is below. If you need that, screenshot this page or ask for it in our team page and it will be there. So. All right, our weekly top 5 are recognition. Yay, part of my favorite part of our call. I love recognition slides. Like, it is so fun to watch our team grow. And because really what this means is that our team is helping people. So congratulations to the weekly top 5, Carrie Summers, Paige Yorgi, Kendall Phones, Stephanie Lafert, and myself in my second CBC. Congratulations to Success Club earners. So you earn 2 Success Club points for every 1 person that you enroll. Success Club points are the measure of success that Beachbody uses to know if you're going to be successful in this business. The people with higher Success Club points typically are more financially successful, like all layers of success are built into this. But Carrie Summers has helped 7 people already this month, which is fantastic. Paige Yorgi has helped 4. That means she's at SC8. I am also at SC8. On the board for the month, Megan Pickup, Layla Bryant are both at 4. Amanda Collison, Kendall Phones, Leanna Morris, Amanda Harold, and Nikki Welch, who I think Nikki is a fairly new coach, are all at Success Club 2, meaning they have helped their very first person for the month, which I think is fantastic. Do not forget that we are doing the team promo right now for the really cute little Killing It tank that I was posting about in our team page. I cannot wait to order my own because I already qualified for it. So guess what? I'm getting myself a t-shirt. Like, my upline coach and buy me a t-shirt, tank top, whatever, I'm gonna buy myself one. So I am excited to be gifting those to specifically Paige already. Carrie already has hers. So I know Paige, you've already earned yours. And I know Megan and Renee, and there were several other people who were like, yes, I'm going for that. So, I mean, guys, make me get on the Etsy shop. Like, I want to get on the Etsy shop. I love gifts. If you've ever done the 5 love languages, gifts are one of my top love language. So I love giving gifts, and this is one of the ways I get to fulfill that love, is with coaching and celebrating our awesome team. So what is Emerald? This kind of goes with that other slide for new coaches. Just to briefly recap that for any new coach that might be on the call, Emerald is 2 coaches. It's literally 2 coaches. We're not really going to go into much more than that tonight because I want to have plenty of time to share the content, but Emerald is literally 2 coaches. Like, it can be your husband and your mom, your best friend and your neighbor, your aunt and your hairdresser. It really doesn't matter, but like, do that and do it now, because the longer you wait to do that, the longer it takes you to start building income. And that's, I mean, I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds skeezy, but that is the truth. When you hit Emerald, there are 2 really big things. One of them down here is leads, and the other is the Beachbody bank account. So the Beachbody bank account is invisible. It's not like a real thing, but you start earning volume points. Volume points are money. It is income for your family. It is income for you. So you don't get to start earning volume points in that invisible little bank account until you are Emerald. Before that, I talked to she's not a new coach. She's actually a coach who's been on the team. I think she's like the 2nd longest coach that's been on our team. There's Matt is right above her, and then there's this coach right up underneath of her. Because she hasn't been Emerald for the past 5 years of my business and my team growth, she has not capitalized on any of that volume. We talked yesterday about her getting to Emerald as soon as humanly possible, because that bank account will explode immediately. Because as soon as she does that, that next week's volume all rolls up underneath of there. And even if she can't start making money, the residual income in that first week, that income will be there when she starts enrolling her own her own team. So really, it is one of the, I don't know, I feel like I can't emphasize it enough how important that is for your business. I mean, it's essentially like opening a business, but never actually opening the door of your business. So you got to open the door. Again, why to advance to Emerald and hit SC10 instead of 5, you get paid leads. So anytime Sally gets online in the middle of the night and she's like, this Energize looks good, how about some collagen? If Sally did not have a coach assigned to her, guess who gets Sally's commission? A coach that qualifies for this. So that means they're Emerald and they've hit Success Club 10 for the month. If you hit Success Club 5, it's Danny who signed up for Beachbody On Demand off of a Facebook ad for the free membership, and he didn't sign up and use a coach's ID, so he has a free account. Guess who he gets assigned to? Somebody who qualified here. So don't leave money on the Beachbody table, guys. There's, I think the statistic that we were talking about last month, I can't remember, recently, was that it used to be you would get probably between 5 and 10 leads a month, like paid leads a month. I'm getting upwards of 40 paid leads a month now, guys. It is because of the nature of COVID and all of just the dynamic shifts in our lifestyle in the United States and the attention now on preventative health. This business is just blowing up. So if you're missing out on that, I mean, you're really only taking away from yourself. So why Advanced Diamond? We kind of skipped over that today, but Diamond is just you, and you have 4 coaches on each side. 2 of those are Emerald. So refer back to what Emerald is. Again, your team cycle bonuses go from 14 to 18. You really start stepping into the role of a leader of a team. We have opportunities to travel. There's group calls and all kinds of stuff that really pour more into the leadership aspect and growing you in that direction. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Our summer strong sale is still going on. Challenge packs will never be cheaper than this. And I don't say that to be like, oh my God, go sell a challenge pack. I mean, literally, they will never be cheaper than $140. $140 gets someone Beachbody On Demand, Shakeology, or Energize and Recover, and then our boot camps. So there's literally never a cheaper way to do this. So I would highly, highly, highly encourage you, if you're a good friend, to tell your people about this, because otherwise you're wasting their money if they wait until June and now it's $160. So be sure to take advantage of that. All right, mark your calendars. Mixberry Energize is coming on Monday, and I'm so excited. I don't know, write in the comments, in the thread, whatever, if you are as pumped as I am. I cannot wait. I love Energize. Amanda Harold did a post on her Instagram today, and she was like, are you team lemon, team fruit punch? Neither. Can't wait to try mixed berry. And personally, I am team lemon 100%, but we have found a magic concoction of 1 scoop of lemon and 1 scoop of fruit punch that tastes phenomenal. So I'm really excited to see what mixed berry tastes like, because I like variety. So very, very excited about that. I know Amy Myers had texted me earlier and said, what time does it go on sale? I have not seen that. Usually it's about 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but they really have been very, I don't know, are you writing in the chat? Maybe there's somebody who's saying in the chat. No, okay. I don't know what time it is, but you better believe I will be all over it. So if it is midnight East Coast time, that's 8 p.m. for me. So I will be all over it for our team, and I will let you know that as soon as you wake up, you will have it. My guess is, though, it will be 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's typically when it is. And the last little update is the Weekender kits that we talked about last week. That's like the sample pack. It's got the Recover and the Energize, Shakeology, and Beach Bars. It's like a little like to-go kit kind of thing. They have been delayed until June 8th because of the COVID shipping stuff. So just so you know about that. All right. Before we get into the slides, I'll stop share really quick, just so if anybody needs to ask a question about like housekeeping-y kind of things, or if your Success Club points have changed since the board was created, shout yourself out, because that list gets populated, and sometimes during the day, today, it gets changed. So, all right. Okay, I will screen share again, and we're going to go into kind of the meat of our call tonight. So, and it's weird because it's almost like one of those things where you're like, I don't know that I want to talk about this. Vulnerability is hard, and I don't know if y'all can see me moving my people thing. I'm sorry if you can, but I like can't see my slideshow if y'all's faces are in front of it. So I like keep moving it around so I can see it. Vulnerability is power. So with that said, yay, Renee, you have somebody signing up tonight. That is amazing. I can't wait to get you a tank top. Okay. Vulnerability is power. That is a scary thing. So in the chat box, I would love for you to write, I'm going to pull the chat box up just so I can see it too. I would love for you to write what vulnerability triggers for you. Yes, you can. It will just be delayed, Renee. It's back ordered, so it'll be delayed. I want to know what the word vulnerability means to you, because I can tell you what vulnerability means to me now is very, very different than to what vulnerability meant to me probably 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I grew up in Virginia with a very, very Southern mama, to the point of like, you don't tell anything to anybody ever. Privacy has to be the number one, like above all. You don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about money, you don't talk about anything at all that could potentially offend someone, set yourself apart from them, or that could, I don't even know the right words. Like there was such a sense of like, don't tell anyone anything. And I get that. I'll be really vulnerable here about my family and my parents' past. My mom was very, very abused by my birth father, just dramatically abused or tragically abused by him. And so I get that. Like, I totally understood that, especially growing up. I understood that is born out of fear, because if you are vulnerable, someone can take advantage of you. If you are vulnerable, someone has something on you that they can then one day use against you. That was the idea of vulnerability that was put into me as a very, very small child. Megan, I was raised never to draw attention to myself, so posting anything about myself is difficult. My husband is super private. Yeah, I feel that, man. I really do. On a deep, deep level, for sure. But here's the thing, and I don't know if you've never read Brene, and I feel like I talk about this book every single week, but it really changed things for me. Brene Brown's Daring Greatly, and a lot of the quotes, I mean, not just the content from this group, or from this call are coming from that, but the quotes themselves, I feel like she always has a very big way of articulating things that like my heart knows, but I can't get out of my mouth in a way that makes sense. So I use Brene Brown's quotes a lot. Paige, connecting with people, sharing your real life. Yes, funny. I love this. My family is super private, and this is not normal for me. It's pushed me to a personal growth I've never seen before in your life. Yeah, and we'll talk about that too, Paige, especially that end part, because that is the end result of vulnerability. Like, fear tells us, and that's, when I share the thing about my mom and it being totally understandable that her past would lead her to believe that vulnerability is to be avoided at all costs. But that's because she sees vulnerability as weak. Vulnerability is weakness. And I feel like we can all, even if you personally don't believe that, it's very easy for you to connect with that thought pattern that vulnerability makes you weak. And again, you think, if I said this beach ball is vulnerable, you would think easy to pop. Like, that's just the way your brain naturally goes. And so when you translate that into human vulnerability, it becomes this, I am the beach ball. The beach ball is easy to pop, and it will just be a catastrophe kind of thing. But the reality is, and this is something, again, it's a concept that was born for me out of Brene's research with vulnerability and shame. But she says vulnerability is typically only weakness in yourself. It is not weakness when you see it in someone else. When someone else shares that they have cancer, or someone else shares an illustration from their past that is really difficult, you look at that person typically and you don't see weakness there. You see courage, you see bravery, you see strength, you see resilience, you see all of these characteristics that you probably do want to embody. But as soon as that camera turns toward you, vulnerability changes its lens. No. Well, that's fine for her. She is brave. I am not brave. This is, it's not good for me to be vulnerable, but it's good for her. And that doesn't make sense. Like, even pulling this into a logical, practical realm, which is where I like to live, that kind of logic doesn't make sense. Like, why is it true for her and not true for you? It's just true for her because she's willing to do it in front of somebody else. And that's where I feel like we have to, especially, and I'll just go ahead and say, if you expect to have any level of success in this business, or truthfully any other realm in your life, vulnerability has to be a component of it. I think of, and again, I hate like just harping on the same book, but the book is about vulnerability. So even at the end of Brené's book and Daring Greatly, I thought it was really beautiful that she touches base on vulnerability in parenting. And as a parent, I really connected with that. My mom was very, very rarely vulnerable with me. She very rarely cried in front of me. She very rarely shared pieces of her life other than like the day-to-day interactions. She very rarely shared that with me. And to my own detriment. I feel like had I been exposed to that, it wouldn't have been such a soul gut-wrenching thing to pull me out of that. And this book probably would have been like, oh no, I understand that, instead of it being this like soul-crushing thing that took me months to process through. And I feel like in some ways I'm still actively processing through a lot of past vulnerability issues. But when you reframe it into connection issues in business, especially, you start realizing why it's holding you back. So 2 quick little quotes from Brené. Vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of meaningful human connections. So taking this out of the realm of business, connection to connection, me to my son, me to you as a friend, me to my mom, me to literally anyone, there has to be a level of vulnerability there if we're ever going to have more than a surface relationship. If I'm ever going to want to move past the, going to get my mail and waving hello, there has to be a level of vulnerability that enters the conversation. And I feel like there's lots of layers of that. There's soft vulnerability where it's just this, like, I gave you a tiny piece and then you've exchanged a tiny piece, and we stay in that barely below surface. But go back to your friends. Like, if you can think of your closest, best friend, maybe that's your husband, maybe that's your best friend from childhood, maybe that person hasn't even been in your life that long. Vulnerability is the connection there. There was a point in time where either they began the exchange or you began the exchange. One of the two happened. And then you exchanged vulnerable moments, right? Like you opened yourself up, and most likely if they're your best friend, it was a moment of, oh my gosh, me too. I distinctly remember the day my best friend Sarah became my best friend. We were walking and talking in this play area with our kids, and she opened up about something. And I know that it took a lot for her because it was an opinion, very, very strong opinion about something. And I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, me too. Like, I have never wanted to say that to another person for fear of offending them ever. But you just said it, and now I have to say this, me too. Like, and instantly that bond was forged. And then obviously it's not a one-time thing, but then you can start building on this complex relationship of friendship, of whatever the relationship is going to be. Maybe that's your marriage, maybe that's a relationship with your kids, but it all is the center is vulnerability. And that's what she's saying here, is that it's the center of meaningful human experiences. And as a coach, that's part of what we're creating. Whether those people immediately sign on to your team or they become a challenger, or maybe they don't, maybe they need to sit back for a month or a week or 6 months, or for the love of God, I still have people sitting back for 4 years that'll contact me and are like, don't take me off your list. I still want you to reach out to me. I just am not ready yet. I'm like, girlfriend, you ain't been ready for 4 years, but okay, like, we'll still hang out here. So anyways, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is create a meaningful human experience to promote growth in the other person as well as myself. The other quote that I really love from that book is vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It is the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. If we want greater clarity in our purpose and deeper and more meaningful spiritual lives, vulnerability is the path. Vulnerability, when you look at it from a weakness standpoint, it's more of a surrender standpoint. I don't look at it as weakness. I look at it as surrender. So I am surrendering myself to the fact that I don't know what's going to happen in this exchange. I think we've all been in a conversation where you've been vulnerable. You've had the lump in your throat. You've said the thing you needed to say. You've gone out in faith, and it has exploded in your faith or in your face. That is not how I feel. Holy crap. How in the world can you believe that? Like, are you kidding me right now? And it's damaged relationships. And that puts another brick in your wall against vulnerability. And the truth of the matter is, vulnerability is an act of faith. You are having faith that you were led to this conversation for a purpose. You were led to put a piece of yourself out there. And now you're giving that up to God, to whatever you believe in, that it's going to connect and it's going to connect well. And, you know, we can talk a little bit more later about I don't know how to explain this other than to say, like, the releasing your attachment to the expectation of the conversation. Like, you being vulnerable isn't for a specific outcome that you're desiring. You aren't, and we're going to talk about that specifically in posting and in our pictures and stuff like that. We aren't putting something out there just for the sake of being vulnerable. Like, ooh, if I'm vulnerable, I'm going to sell them a challenge pack. Like, you don't have this already anticipated outcome of your vulnerable moment. It's just because it's where your heart is leading you, and you know that vulnerability, that moment of courage for you, is going to lead to a deeper, more meaningful human connection. Yes, sometimes that results in sales. Sometimes that results in very lucrative partnerships. And sometimes it just creates human connection. But again, that's why we're here. And I kind of wrap it all back around before we move specifically into coaching and posting and all of the things there. That's the point of our business. It's human connection. It's not ripped abs. It's not, I mean, yes, 50 pounds down is fantastic, and I applaud anyone who has done that. But the truth of the matter is, if that human connection isn't there, those results aren't going to last, and you're not going to continue with that relationship. You're going to go flit on to the next thing that brings you some semblance of, like, ooh, maybe my human connection is here. And we've all seen that happen, where you kind of go from thing to thing to thing to thing, seeking human connection. But because you aren't willing to be vulnerable, or you're not willing to accept someone else's vulnerability, you never actually get further than just the flitting around. So, okay, let me take a sip and move along. Okay. So I don't do pretty slides most of the time, because I really just kind of want to get the content out and have a chat. Uh-oh, somebody's off mute. I don't know who that is. But, okay. So vulnerability, like moving, is everybody still here? Is everybody still here? I don't know. My whole thing went crazy. Oh, there we are. Okay. I think everyone is still here. This is very confusing. My whole screen just went nuts. So, okay. So vulnerability existing on multiple layers of coaching. This is really where, I think the growth component of this is, but bringing it into, okay, how does this affect my business? Because vulnerability is great. Like, we can talk about that till the day is done, but like, also, how does this affect my business? Vulnerability is going to show up with lots of different layers in your coaching. And I kind of list some of them out here. Vulnerability is going to, I think the easy thing to think is that it's only in the posts that you write, but it's also in the photos that you post, the conversations you have behind the scenes. It translates through the way you've asked someone to be a part of your team, how you lead that team once you've gained even one person. I'm going to stop share for just a minute, because it's like super distracting down at the bottom. But that's that's what I think is really important here, is that we all acknowledge that there's a lot of layers to this. And that we really need to, I guess, unpack each one of those so that you can really begin to understand how it looks when you are being vulnerable and how it looks when you're not being vulnerable. Because as someone who's been doing this as long as I am and has a team of working, growing coaches, I can almost tell you down to a science which of your posts on your social media did anything for your business. It's almost always the ones that have vulnerable layers to them. And again, I think vulnerability is misconstrued a lot as, oh my gosh, now I have to go vomit my entire life story on Instagram so that people like it. And oh my gosh, now Danielle will think I've been vulnerable. Congratulations. Like, that's not what we're doing here. Most of the time, vulnerability is best placed in small bits and pieces. I do think that there's a lot of power in telling a larger chunk of that story sometimes, but most of the time that needs to come in smaller bite-sized pieces so that not only you don't feel like hiding away for the rest of your life, but also so that people can connect to that piece instead of trying to connect to the whole thing. I mean, I try to bring it on into a personal conversation level. Like, I would not typically meet you for the first, second, third, or fourth time and we've word vomited our entire story to one another. Like, even people who I've known forever and ever and ever in this business, you know, I look at Carrie and I look at Amanda Harold, they still don't know all the layers of my story. So in some respects, I don't even know all of the layers of my story. So just sharing some of those in well-crafted ways is going to help bridge that deeper connection with people, because deeper connection equals trust, and trust equals business growth. Again, we're going to pull this back into that business realm. You don't go to a dentist that you don't trust. Like, I'm not saying you have to know your dentist's life story, but like, if there's something there that makes you feel like you can't trust him, you're not going to go to that dentist anymore. If there's something in a business exchange on, and I kind of stick mostly to services based on, because we are in a service industry versus like a product sales industry. Like, I don't really care if I trust the girl at Macy's that sold me makeup. Like, okay, thanks for the makeup, but like, whatever trust issues you have, like, okay. But I'm talking like repeated service kind of things. You don't want to interact with people you don't trust. You build trust through human connectivity. You build trust through vulnerability. So you are more likely to have a successful conversation with someone if they already feel like they can trust you. How do we accomplish that? By building layers of trust in our social media and in our back end conversations. And that comes through sharing little pieces of our story. A lot of times, and I'm trying not to skip around too much because it's easy to like kind of bounce from thing to thing, but just sticking to social media posts, I think most of the time people look at that as like the transformation photo post. Like, that takes an extra level of vulnerability, especially when you're newer at this and you have not done that before. It takes a lot of vulnerability to say, I was not at a place where I liked, so I did something about it, and this is the place I'm at now. Like, when you deconstruct a transformation story, that's what's there. I wasn't, and it doesn't mean you hated your body and you hated yourself and da-da-da-da-da, but there was something you desired to change. There was a moment of change, and then there is an outcome that you now have. And that outcome doesn't have to be finished, but that is the layer of a transformation. Guys, that takes vulnerability. That takes accepting and admitting you don't know everything. Maybe you aren't happy. Maybe your life isn't as pretty as your Instagram makes it out to be. Like, those things are all vulnerable. Those things are all raw. And just to clue you in on what's going on in the households of every other human in America, they are the same way. their life isn't as pretty as they make it out to be. They aren't as happy as you perceive them to be. They have insecurities, they have faults, they have doubts, just like all of us. Vulnerability is what makes us humans. Like we exist there. So why shunning vulnerability only makes it seem like you somehow got away without experiencing the rest of life like everyone else did. So hiding that, being ashamed of that, not being willing to step forward and say, this is a part of me, this is a part of my story, is only hiding in fear of some unknown judgment from someone. And, you know, from my experience with judgment, the majority, I mean, there are going to be people who are going to judge you, right? Like that's just a fact. Like you can't walk out of your house if you live in a neighborhood without the potential for someone judging you, no matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you are the best dressed girl in the room, you might be judged because you're better dressed than everybody else. Like there's no winning here. So pretending like you're winning isn't helping, and not stepping into the arena isn't helping anyone either. So we might as well show up vulnerable. We might as well share our authentic stories. We might as well just put ourselves out there, because what you're missing when you don't do that is that human connectivity, is that other person screaming, me too, oh my gosh, you're missing out. I mean, again, we'll bring this back into a world of business. You're missing out on sales. You're missing out on clients. You're missing out on a team growth. You're missing out on all of those layers because you aren't willing to put yourself out there. So again, trying to stay on track here with posts, those are pieces of your story. And after all of this is over, like I meant to pull some examples of some really beautifully vulnerable posts that don't make you feel vomity. I will say there is an art to crafting a vulnerable post. There's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. And my biggest, and this is silly, but it also like needs to be said. If at the end of your post, the reaction that you're kind of looking, or maybe like you read back over the post that you just wrote, and if you were reading it and someone else, you would like drag your finger across to the Facebook sad face, you might not have done it so great. Like maybe we need to get someone else to look at it. How can I explain growth in this rather than, can you please feel sorry for me for my moment of vulnerability? Because vulnerability isn't about making someone else feel sorry for you. When you approach the post in a way that seeks attention in a negative way, that is the way that it will be perceived. And so that does not lead to human connectivity, because you really have kind of broken that trust, and it's gone more into the pity realm versus the empowerment realm. And so we as coaches exist in social media space to bring empowerment, to bring encouragement, to bring inspiration, education. We're not existing here to elicit pity from other people because we've had a hard time. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a hard time at all. Life sucks sometimes, guys. Like, it really, 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 really sucks. But the point isn't to make everyone else feel bad about how sucky your life is. Like, I don't think any of us would want that. So making sure that when you write a post, you can kind of wrap it back into, how is this educating someone? How is this inspiring someone? How is this encouraging someone? How is this empowering someone and helping them feel like they're not alone? That's the purpose of a post. If you need to feel pity from someone, like, call one of your girlfriends that is good at that. Like, I'm not good at that, so please don't call me. But like, there are plenty of girlfriends that people have, or friends that are guys or whatever, that are like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that does suck. He's the worst. Oh, your life is just so hard. Like, I don't know. I don't enjoy being around people like that, but I know that sometimes that's what you need, like, to fill that little sadness gap. Like, but your social media posts are not that. Again, you can spin all kinds of things into the empowerment, encouragement, authenticity realm, as long as you keep those things in mind, that it's not to elicit pity. So, grieving the loss of someone, grieving the sickness, or, my kids are sick and I'm seeking education. There's lots of ways to do this that don't elicit pity. So, if you need help with wording things, because again, I know none of us are out there like trying to just get people to feel sad for us. I'm happy to help with that, or just stick it in the page. We're all happy to help with that. Let's see, photos. I really, 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 really wanted to touch on this because I see it a lot, and it's a shield, right? So if I am thinking, and I'll speak on it from an analytical perspective first so that you understand why I say what I say. There's nothing wrong with posting a quote. There's nothing wrong with posting a pretty picture of a flower or a tree or whatever. The problem is most of the time, unless that's for art's sake or for sharing sake, if it's connected to a post that you're actually trying to connect to a human with, it's a shield of vulnerability. You're holding up this, I don't want to show you my face because I'm ashamed of this vulnerable moment. And I know that that always is like, well, no. But when you start looking at it and you've wrote this beautiful post that, you know, talks about some component of your story, and all you do is throw up a picture of, like, I don't know, I never want anybody to think I'm like picking on them, but because I think we've all done this. I know if you scroll back in my social media, there's a lot of this. But because my background is in graphics, we'll just stick with myself so that I don't make anybody feel like I'm pinpointing them. My background is in graphics. So I love graphic design apps, and I love stock photos in graphic design apps. So I would go and pick out a picture of a strong girl going like this and attach it to my story. Analytics wise on Facebook and Instagram and social media, I could do that exact same thing, exact same words, stock photo, and put a photo of my face up instead of some stock photography post or a post with a bunch of pretty quotes on it. And I guarantee you the one of yourself will triple the engagement that something with a stock photo or a photo that's not of you. I mean, and I think that that's where people, you know, get misconstrued about, well, this is the business of selfies. I mean, to a point, yeah, at some point it is, because we want to see other people's faces. That makes us feel connected to them. And when we never see your face, or all we ever see is this shield that you've put up, this mask, no one wants to connect to you because they don't trust you. I'm not saying every single post you have to post should be a selfie. I'm actually really saying the opposite of that. But specifically with vulnerable posts, they are triple the impact with a photo of you. Triple. Like, don't believe me? Do an experiment. Put up a post one day with words and a quote, or a picture of a dog or a tree or whatever, and do the exact same post with a picture of you the next day and see what happens. I promise you I'm right, because I wanted to hide behind images that didn't expose my vulnerability. It's just, I don't know, it's a whole thing. So with that said, it's almost self-defeating to an extent when all you do is post things that don't ever expose yourself. And again, when I say expose yourself, I'm not talking about flashing people. I'm just saying, like, exposing who you are, letting people see your face, letting people see your smile, because that shows them that you're a real human. You have flaws, and you might have a pimple, and your hair might not be perfect. And that's not the point. People don't want other perfect people. They don't relate to them. They want you. So be sure that you're also translating your vulnerability in your post. I will say, again, the point isn't to get people to feel sad for you. So it is very, very rare that you posting a picture of yourself crying is impactful. I mean, it's really, really, really got to be an authentic level of emotion if you're going to use a picture of you crying. I see people do that, and I'm like, wow, that's not a very vulnerable moment for a very, like, intensely emotional photo. And I'm like, oh, I don't, like, it's almost like the crying is to draw the attention. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the point here. If the crying is real, the crying is authentic, then go for it, you know. But if the crying is invented to make people pay attention to your post, that's not cute. In the conversations you have behind the scenes, that's where it's the me too. That's where someone has given you permission to hear a part of their story and you connect back with them. Thumbs up sucks. If you were vulnerable to someone and you shared with them how this changed your whatever, your life, your finances, your waistline, whatever, and you gave them a piece of your story and you got back this, sucks and it hurts. And it typically leads to this downward spiral of, oh my God, they're judging me. I said too much. And then you go into this like catastrophic thing where you're just like wrapped up in your own head about I've said too much and now I've been vulnerable. And, you know, I don't know, if you're anything like me, you invent stories like, oh my God, now they went to their whole neighborhood. They're like, did you know what Danielle just said to me? Like, I don't know, I'm crazy. So, but don't do that to other people. And I will say that the majority of the time it will not happen to you. But also just, you know, this is something that I shared with Paige earlier this week because someone had asked her a question and she was trying to formulate an answer. And I was like, go with humor. If you ever feel a little bit like, I don't know how this is going to land. I don't know, like put an LOL at the end of it. I don't know, like LOL. Like, I think that again brings it down into this, I'm uncomfortable here. I'm being vulnerable, but LOL. Like, I don't know. I think that really like softens the edge on some more vulnerable questions. It translates the way through the way you ask somebody to be a part of your team. I think that's one of the most brave and vulnerable and impactful things when you leave a voice message for someone who's on your like, just I call it your chicken shit list, but whatever you want to call it, your list of people who like you just know would be amazing at this. I understand that typing out words helps because you feel like you can say what you want to say without maybe emotion and getting vulnerable, but sometimes that's what it needs. Sometimes it needs you to leave a message and you say, hey Nikki, so oh my God, I kind of want to throw up texting you this, but I cannot get your face off my mind. I am putting together a list of people who I wanted to invite to be a part of my team. And I don't know, I just can't stop thinking about you and how amazing you would be at doing this. Can I send you some more information? Guys, that's vulnerable. That's vulnerable. You're opening yourself up to someone going, you are way off base, sister. But have faith. Take a step of courage because you also don't know that Nikki hasn't been waiting for somebody to see something in her entire life. Like, you don't know that. And so you keeping your vulnerability inside only lessens the blessing from someone else is kind of how I feel about it. And let's see how you lead your team. I mean, we can definitely do deeper dives into leadership vulnerability, but again, leading from a place of, I've always been amazing. I've never struggled. I've never, never had that question. That's strange. Like, man, that doesn't help anybody. Like, leading from a place of I've been there too, and this is how I've grown is much more powerful than leading from a place of I can't connect to you because we're not in the same place in our business anymore. Like, be sure that you bring yourself down to where that other person is and connect to them. Don't fake it, obviously, but like connect to them on a human level. Like, man, I was so scared. I remember posting my first T25 transformation post. I literally posted it, pushed close on my phone, put my phone down, and went grocery shopping without my phone. Like, I just was so sick to my stomach. So and that is a true story. Like, I'm not making that up. So when Renee comes to me and she says, I can't post this. Like, I can't post my transformation photo. I just can't do it. It's too much. I can connect to her because I've been there. I've felt that. So know that your leadership will stem out of vulnerability as well. And then, and don't wait until you have a team for that. I think that's another like really common shoot yourself in the foot kind of thing. Get one person going. One. That's all it takes. Be the leader of that one person. Like, you don't have to wait till you have a team of 10 or a team of 5 or a team of 2. Like, be the leader to that one person. And then just know, couple of little things I took notes on, and then we'll kind of open it up for questions and discussion. But it's not easy being vulnerable. The world tells us that it's weak, but it's always worth it. Don't ever apologize for being vulnerable. Even if it blew up in your face, do not apologize for it ever, 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 ever. There is never a bit of shame for you opening yourself up and being vulnerable. If, again, that person's reaction to it doesn't really matter. That's not necessarily the point. That's manipulation. That's coercion. You're not worried. You shouldn't be worrying about what the other person is going to think of your piece of vulnerability. And that goes for posting pictures, behind the scenes conversation, all the things. And then expect that a vulnerability hangover is real. Just know that's, especially if it's a big, I remember and this is a fairly small group, even though it's recorded, I guess at some point he could hear this conversation, but my brother is a recovering heroin addict. And Matt and I went through a time in our life where we had accepted financial responsibility for him. We had become his payee for Social Security and disability and all of the things. And it sucked and it was hard. And he was coming out of jail, and it was it was just an awful experience for all of us. I say my extended family, but I mean my mom, my dad, my sister, like all of us were really going through a lot of family drama. I was a coach. I am committed to authenticity in my social media. It's really hard when things are hard in your life and you don't feel like you can share them because it's not your, like, my brother's addiction isn't my story, but my story is how I'm dealing with a loved one's addiction, how I'm dealing with a really hard time in our family. And so I kept feeling from God, like, you've got to share this, you've got to share this. But I just couldn't figure out how I was supposed to share it without sharing it, kind of thing. And what I ended up finding was going live and talking about, I mean, it was like so early in the morning, it was before my workout. I went live and I shared about the difference between trying and training. So when somebody says, well, I'm really trying, like, that's nice. But when an Olympic athlete goes out to train for the Olympics, they aren't trying. I'm trying to get on the Olympic team. No, they're training. They're doing the behaviors. They're doing the actions. And for whatever reason, that really connected to my brother's story. And what I said in my video was just that, you know, I love somebody that's an addict. And I know that I'm not the only one. I know that there's lots of people out there that love an addict, and it's really freaking hard, you guys. It is really hard to love someone who is struggling in that way. But I read this in, you know, my Bible study or whatever it was. I think it was in our small group. And I just wanted to share that as a piece of encouragement. If you are struggling in this arena, like, I'm not speaking to everyone. I wasn't trying to elicit guilt or trying to elicit shame or trying to elicit someone feeling sorry for my story. I'm just trying to tell somebody that they're not the only one that loves someone that's an addict. There was probably, and again, this wasn't the point, but I found it an interesting observation after the fact. I had some interesting comments, like, not interesting in a bad way, but like, oh yeah, you know, that is really hard, da, 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 da. What I got was one girl who sent me a message after the fact, after the video, you know, this was a couple hours later, and she's like, I can't stop crying. I can't stop crying. What you just shared with me is one of the most powerful things. She said, my husband is an addict, and I have felt so alone and so isolated and so shut down that you getting on there and being so brave and sharing that just really, really impacted me. And I just had to tell you that. That's why I was called to share. It wasn't for me. It was for that one girl that needed to hear that. And so if you enter into any, especially any kind of really vulnerable things with that attitude of, I'm there to share it because I'm being called to share it, not because I'm trying to get attention, because this is where I feel, again, whether that's God's calling or the universe or whatever you want to call it, like, then there should be no shame there. Like, you've just got to do it because there's somebody out there that desperately, desperately needs that. And again, I would say for probably 24 hours after that, I didn't want to look at my phone. I didn't want to talk to anybody, like, total vulnerability hangover. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't think of anything to post. And I can't think of any, like, I just couldn't interact with anybody in any way, I felt like. But that human connectivity with that girl is still one of the most powerful examples of vulnerability in my life. And so I'm really grateful that I took that step. And so I would encourage you guys, if you haven't been vulnerable, especially those of you who have been coaching for a while, if you haven't been vulnerable in a post, and I mean vulnerable to the point where you kind of want to puke, give it some real thought. Give it some thought of, why are you doing that? Why are you holding back? Why are you ashamed of your story, part of your testimony that God has given you? Why are you ashamed of that to the point that you won't share it? Like, there's someone out there that needs you to say what's going on or what happened or whatever. And I'll kind of end on this too, because I think it's always scary to share our dreams with other people. That was something for team growth that I had to get over. I hope I'm not frozen. Am I frozen? Yeah. Oh, I'm good. Okay. Sorry. It said it was unstable. Especially in a team atmosphere, it was really difficult. I mean, really for the first 4 years, I didn't want to tell our team that I wanted to lead. I just didn't want to tell people, because that made me seem like, I don't know, I was just so afraid of what people who came onto this team would think if I talked about big goals and big dreams. Don't be afraid of that, guys. There are people out there that want to support your dreams. I go back to Bo Eason's book, There's No Plan B for Your A Game. And he talks about, like, if my 17-year-old wants to play the NFL, there is a whole team of people that are behind him that believe in his dream, that want him to get there because he wants to get there, not because it'll impact their bottom line, not because they just believe in his dream and they want to do that. Like, don't think that someone doesn't believe in your dream as well. So don't be afraid to share your dream with this team or with your own team if you're growing your team. I know that it's hard, and I know that it's scary to kind of step into that space, but I would really, really, really encourage you to do that, because I will tell you right now, no one will believe in your dream if you don't tell them. They don't know it was ever there to begin with. So, take some of the layers of shields off, the masks off, and create some human connectivity. So, all right, well, it is 3:00 here. So I'm going to end the call here. If anybody wants to stay on and kind of share takeaways or thoughts or has questions, I am here. So you can just unmute yourself, because I have everybody muted. So.